Hi guys, I just thought I'd make another political video. I know people may be disappointed in that, but we live in a day and age where Donald Trump is president, and I just feel I have to say some of my thoughts. I mean, right now the situation with his foreign policy, I mean, seriously, it's been the worst foreign policy of any president in the history of America. You have his appeasement with Vladimir Putin, who obviously is not going to do anything the United States says. They can't add any more sanctions because Biden already did all of that. And then all they can manage to do after 4 months of negotiations is release, get more Ukrainian prisoners released, which has already been done under the Biden era. You then have his attitude to China, where he claims he's going to have this big deal with China, but instead of he just launched the globe into where the two largest superpowers are having a massive trade war, which is just ultimately is going to raise prices and the consumer is going to suffer. You also have the situation in Iran, and I just saw a video on Fox News of someone saying the Democrats are very naive trying to get a deal with Iran because Iran will shake your hand with their right hand on a deal whilst they use their left hand to enrich uranium and get nuclear weapons. But that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing right now. I mean, he's literally just trying to get a deal with Iran, and obviously that's not going to work. They're not going to, even if they agree to a deal, there's no way they would follow through with it. It's a dictatorship, and the supreme leader of Iran wants nuclear weapons. And instead, he somehow managed to lurch the situation into potentially another war with between Israel and Iran. And he also said he was going to end, obviously, the Russian-Ukraine war in 24 hours, but mainly stop the Israel-Hamas war. But he's just emboldened Israel to continue committing war crimes and atrocities, and now they may be dragged into a war with Iran. So again, that's China, Russia, Iran, Israel, and Hamas. His foreign policy is just terrible. His trade war, which is just raised prices massively on consumers, is just ridiculous and stupid to begin with. He said he was going to make hundreds of deals with countries. Only one deal has been made with the UK, and even that deal has not been completely ratified because he's just raised taxes on steel tariffs to up to 50% again from 25%. So, but then he keeps changing his mind and pausing and unpausing tariffs. This is not helpful to any global economic security, and it's again just terrible foreign policy because he's alienating and antagonizing everyone who's supposed to be whether they're an ally or an enemy. And at the end of the day, even if he raises tariffs successfully, the money that countries spend on that is just going to go back onto the price of the goods that they're selling to the US, and then the US will have to up the prices of their goods. So, for example, in Walmart, they've had to raise the price of bananas by 8%, I think, to keep in line with tariffs. So, the Liberation Day doesn't work. It's the opposite of a Liberation Day. It's an imprisonment day. I mean, seriously. And finally, the amount of US allies that he's not just offended, but threatened to invade. For example, Greenland, he's threatened to invade. That's a sovereign nation under Denmark. Again, that's never going to happen, and I don't understand how a president ranting about that can be considered sane. If Biden had done any of that, they would have called for him to be removed and sectioned. Then you have Canada, making Canada the 51st state and everything. Again, Canada's obviously a sovereign nation, and a lot of trade that the US and Canada do is vital to both countries. I mean, the amount of wood and electricity generated from Canada that go to help power the United States is huge. And whilst yes, Canada probably takes more than the US, they sell to the US more than they take. It doesn't matter in the end. This facade of the trade deficit that he has to balance, it's ridiculous. And trying to threaten our America's allies with massive economic tariffs is just going to lead to not just reciprocal tariffs, but as you've seen, boycotting of American goods and reduced people going to the United States for holiday, and obviously a reduction in the tourism industry is just going to seriously impact some people's livelihoods. You also have him threatening to invade Panama, which is ridiculous, because he keeps claiming that he's not a warmonger, but he thrives off threatening people because he enjoys the power that he has. So threatening Panama, invading Panama and Mexico, again, just dreadful foreign policy, and he makes himself look like an idiot. And his general policy of appeasement towards his enemies has clearly failed and emboldened them. And his attitude, his antagonistic attitude to his allies, has just alienated the United States, and no one wants to make deals with the United States anymore. Of course, when he says he wants to increase funding to NATO, I agree that people should pay their fair share. However, even suggesting and threatening people that America won't intervene is just completely counterproductive and doesn't help anyone except the United States allies like Russia, who now feel they can continue the war indefinitely because Trump won't do anything. He also said in a big part of his campaign that he'd stop funding Ukraine, but he hasn't, obviously, because he's realised Russia is obviously in the wrong and that Ukraine are the ones that are suffering. And now he's just left with effectively egg all over his face, and he doesn't know what to do, so he's just quietly still funding Ukraine, not very quietly funding Israel's illegal war on Hamas, where they're committing countless war crimes and atrocities. He hasn't secured any economic deals or any military deals necessarily. He just agreed. In fact, the only deal he's actually agreed is that Qatar will give him a £400 million jet, and they'll invest heavily in his own business. That's it. That's all they managed to do, which is kickbacks, which he seriously argued against when he accused the Biden administration of taking kickbacks from Ukraine, which of course was a load of rubbish, but that was a big thing. That was on the right. And this is the hypocrisy of the right, where Trump says you cannot take third-party benefits or bribes. Not only that, you can't take them from a country that funds terrorists, which is what Qatar does. So Trump is just a complete hypocrite, and every time he does something that breaks what he did promised in his manifesto, or what he promised never to do in previous speeches when running for the presidency, people just don't seem to care, or his fans give him a free pass. And at the end of the day, this has to be some of the worst foreign policy of any US president ever. I mean, there's been some bad foreign policies under previous presidencies, but I mean, this really takes the cake. It's just, this isolationist America First policy is only going to hurt Americans and America's allies. And that's it. So I just thought I'd come on here and say this because I feel more people need to speak out against this absolute rubbish. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you later.